Boston lets 11-year-olds and non-citizens vote on how to spend $2.2 million in taxpayer cash. And nearly a third of that went to shielding illegals from deportation. Why? I like how everyone in this image just looks like incredibly disappointed, even though these are all the fucking like leftists, man. While ICE agents are conducting immigration sweeps across New England, Mayor Michelle Wu is spending $700,000 of your money to help illegal immigrants fight back. Nearly a third of the city's $2.2 million participatory budget, a program where residents vote on how to spend taxpayer dollars, was funneled into 2 immigration programs: $400,000 for an immigrant legal defense fund and $300,000 for career pathways focused on language and employment services. The Legal Defense Fund will pay for lawyers to represent immigrants facing detention or deportation. Read that again. Boston taxpayers are now bankrolling the legal defense of people in the country illegally, while the city simultaneously refuses to cooperate with federal immigration authorities. Now, if this is a thing where residents vote on how to spend the taxpayer dollars, and the vote actually went into doing this stuff for the illegals, this is kind of a literal you get what you vote for kind of thing. But I just don't understand how there are so many people voting for this. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. How are there so many people that are like, yes, please pay our tax dollars towards this thing? Democrats wanted to make a law about Tide Pods and teenagers and now want these geniuses to vote? It's just like, what the actual fuck? Here's where it gets worse. The participatory budgeting process that allocated this money wasn't limited to tax-paying adult citizens. Under Wu's rules, anyone living in Boston aged 11 or older could vote, regardless of citizenship status. And maybe this is how this actually got passed, right? If you think about immigrant families having vastly more children than any of the Native American families, not Native American like Indian, but Native American like people who are actual Americans and did not immigrate here in the last like couple of decades, wondering if them and all their children voting to give them more shit is how this passed. That's kind of insane that literal children are voting. Mr. Rich Low Pitch, thank you. How much to rent a bulldozer? Asking for a friend. You know? This means illegal immigrants themselves had a say in directing taxpayer money toward their own legal defense. And this is why absolutely no foreigners should be able to hold office. I don't care if they're legal or illegal. No foreigners should be able to hold any kind of office in our country. Because they're just going to vote for their and their racial subsect's best interests instead of what's best for Americans in general. Just 4,841 people voted out of a city of 650,000. That's less than 1% of Boston's population deciding how to spend $2.2 million. How is it such few people? That also doesn't make sense to me. Did they just like not announce when the fucking vote was? How did so few people come out and vote on this? This seems like something very fucking important. City Councilor Ed Flynn called the process tone deaf, unserious, and wholly inappropriate. It's a lot of money for young people to be deciding where taxpayer money is going, arguing that children shouldn't be making decisions about the economic stability of the city. We have reached such depths of clown world that politicians actually have to argue against 11-year-olds voting. I don't like that we're here. Renato Costello, Wu's director of participatory budgeting, waved off the criticism, calling it an exercise in democracy. No, an exercise in democracy is having 11-year-olds have like a class voting exercise, not having them actually decide where 2.2 million taxpayer dollars go. That's fucking insanity. Bet it wasn't advertised and shit like school teachers were told to just tell their 5th grade classes how to vote. Fucking probably. It's just wonderful to see kids and youth being engaged, Costello said. Remember when the UK wanted to lower the voting age and we made fun of them? Remember that? The spending comes against a jaw-dropping backdrop. Boston Police Commissioner Michael Cox admitted in January that his department ignored all 57 ICE detainer requests in 2025. Every single one. That's nearly a 4-fold increase from the 15 requests BPD ignored in 2024. Cox cited the Boston Trust Act, the sanctuary's law enacted in 2014, which prohibits local police from cooperating with federal immigration authorities on civil matters. When Councillor Flynn tried to find out whether any of those 57 ignored detainers involved criminal cases, not just civil immigration matters, the city council voted 9-4 to block his request. What? What even is Boston anymore, man? Flynn had filed a 17F request giving Wu's administration 1 week to hand over all communications between federal agencies and the Boston Police Department regarding detainer requests, cooperation agreements, and memoranda of understanding from January 2024 onward. 9 councilors voted to bury it. So we have Congress voting to bury, like, sexual allegations or misconduct allegations. We have Boston specifically shooting down any kind of inquiry into ignoring ICE detainers. And I'm also pretty sure that the people of Massachusetts voted on some sort of, like, budget check thing that I've had in tabs for ages. And the politicians in Mass have just been ignoring it and not doing the audit for, like, 2 years now. So it's like, it doesn't even matter if you vote to hold your politicians accountable in Massachusetts. They're just gonna look at you with a side eye and be like, yeah, we're just not gonna do that. Fuck you, buddy. We have illegals to take care of, actually. They want more money! The $700,000 isn't enough for some on the council. Councillor Ruth Z. Louis-Jouen, what the fuck is that name? Backed by Council President Liz Breeden and Councillor Enrique Pepin, has proposed a separate immigrant emergency response fund that would use city and private money to provide legal defense, family stabilization, and help with everyday bills for immigrants targeted by ICE. Braden said the quiet part out loud. ICE seeks to create chaos in an attempt to prevent community members from responding effectively to their actions. The creation of a scalable emergency support fund for incidents will allow us as a city to be better prepared for when ICE strikes next. I feel like in response to this, if you're someone who, like, lives in New Hampshire on, like, a Massachusetts border town, it is your patriotic duty to order DoorDash at least once a week. And if your DoorDasher doesn't speak English, you just report them to ICE. This is how you combat the retardation of Massachusetts, all right? Making ICE sound like a bunch of supervillains. It's like, I've already told you just how porous that border is between Mass and New Hampshire. You can be on one street and go through both states, like, multiple times. So it's like, you can just do things. When a sitting city council president describes lawful federal immigration enforcement as an entity that strikes like a natural disaster, you know where Boston's priorities lie. The pen went further, calling a February ICE arrest in Roslindale an abduction. Let's add it up. $700,000 in taxpayer money for immigrant legal defense and career services, 57 ICE detainer requests ignored by Boston police in a single year, a city council that voted to block transparency on those detainers, a new fund in the works to bankroll even more immigration resistance, and 11-year-olds and non-citizens giving voting power over the city budget. All of this while the federal government is actively suing Boston over its sanctuary policies. The DOJ lawsuit targeting the Boston Trust Act is still pending. Meanwhile, Wu is doubling down, using every lever of city government to shield illegal immigrants from federal enforcement. Boston taxpayers are footing the bill, and most of them never even got a vote. Which again is wild. Where is the statistic here? How is it that only 4,841 people voted, and they allowed illegals and children to vote, and it still only had that tiny of a turnout? It don't make no goddamn sense to me. This was back in December. Fall River reporter said, "Is democracy officially dead in Massachusetts? It's now been 417 days since 72% of voters passed a ballot question that allows the state auditor to audit the legislators, but Democrat leadership continues to ignore it." After voters overwhelmingly backed her legislative audit efforts, Mass Auditor DiZoglio, are we just making up names now, looks ahead to the next chapter of her long fight. On election day, almost 72% of Massachusetts voters backed a ballot question confirming the state auditor has the power to audit the state legislature. This article was from November 12th, 2024, by the way. It was a resounding victory for State Auditor Diana DiZoglio, who has fought a long battle with her fellow Democrats on Beacon Hill over the issue. The legislature has stonewalled her attempts to crack open its books since she took office in 2023, claiming the former state lawmaker is trying to overstep her power. Attorney General Andrea Campbell went as far as to say the auditor lacks the legal authority for a legislator audit. Campbell. I wonder if that's Campbell, like the famous Campbell family that everyone in Ireland hates. Campbell family that also make Campbell soup. That's part of Bridge. Bong, bong, bong. DiZoglio has maintained that Massachusetts lawmakers have operated without transparency and oversight for too long, and that taxpayers deserve to know how Beacon Hill is spending their money. With the successful passage of Question 1 in her back pocket, the auditor spoke with WAMC about what comes next. People want change, they want transparency and accountability for their elected leaders up on Beacon Hill. I would be remiss not to thank every person who collected a signature, wrote a letter to the editor, expressed support to their friends and family, and came out and voted for this important initiative. We could not have had such a successful night on election night with that 72%, which is huge, without folks at the grassroots level working so hard and diligently to make sure that our vision of a more transparent and accessible state government became reality. WAMC asks, looking at the actual text of the question, it says somewhat simply that it authorizes you to audit the state legislature. Break that down for us as you interpret it. What exactly is the mandate you've been given, with something like 2.3 million votes behind this effort? Our mandate, according to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 11, Section 12, is very clear, that all state entities receive the same type of audit that's done in accordance with government auditing standards set by the Government Accountability Office at the federal level. This language simply added into the list that already says all departments of government are to be audited by the state auditor's office. It simply adds that state legislature into that language, so that there is parity and there's fairness, and so the state legislature receives the same type of audit that any other state entity receives. In the past, you've quarreled with Democrats in Boston about your ability to do this. Obviously, the state legislature itself pushed back. We had the Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, say you lacked legal authority. Do you feel like, at this point, the debate put to bed? And she replied, certainly, the voters came out and stated in a crystal clear fashion what their expectation is of Beacon Hill, particularly as it has to do with legislative leaders and the state's legislature compliance with the law. Now, yes, the Attorney General and I did have a very strong disagreement about the interpretation of the law previous to this point. I did seek access to the justice system for the impartial hearing that is my constitutional right. And the Attorney General's office did deny our office access to the justice system during that time to educate this matter. That is why we had to take this issue to the ballot, so that voters could make crystal clear to Beacon Hill that they expect transparency, accountability, and accessibility from their state government. Yes, even from powerful politicians in our Massachusetts state legislature. So what happens next? Currently, legislative leaders are very much looking for a way out of having to comply with the will of the people, and are, to my understanding, looking at potential amendments to the law that would create exemptions for themselves, and also considering an outright overturning of the law. This is unacceptable. As we know, the people spoke very clearly on election night that they expect them to be held to the same standards as everybody else, without creating exemptions for themselves. So what we need to do now is call our legislators and ask them to stand up for the people that they represent, rather than standing up for Beacon Hill's most powerful politicians, and that the work that remains before us even after election day. The news people asked, with question 1 passed and behind us, is there at this point any sort of material concrete roadmap for what goes forward from here? This article continues for like a huge bunch of other paragraphs, but again, this was from 2024, and this was the initial passing of, hey, we want to audit all of the Massachusetts legislature and find out where money's going. This was DiZoglio in 2025. State Auditor Deanna DiZoglio says state lawmakers are acting undemocratically by not complying with a ballot question that gave her office authority to audit the legislature. As a reminder, this first article we read was November 12th in 2024. This Fall River Reporter tweet said it's been 417 days as of December 27th, 2025. Where the state auditor has not been allowed to do an audit. So this August 6th, 2025 article. On GBH's Boston Public Radio on Wednesday, DiZoglio went so far as to compare state lawmakers to the Trump administration. We talk about authoritarian regimes in DC. What about here on Beacon Hill, she said. There's an authoritarian regime in the legislature on Beacon Hill right now. I think it's really funny that she's being stonewalled by her own party and she still has Trump derangement syndrome. She's so close to understanding the real problem, and yet still so far. The ballot question at heart of this conflict passed with support from 72% of the state's voters in November, and is now codified in state law. But to this day, the auditor's efforts to implement it have been stymied by Beacon Hill power holders. Top state lawmakers have cast doubt on whether the auditor has authority to review or oversee practices in the legislature under the separation of powers that's laid out in the state constitution. Who the hell votes against something like this? It's more like this overwhelmingly passed, and the state is just like, yeah, actually, the auditor doesn't have the authority to audit us. It's so weird. Since the auditor is a member of the state's executive branch. Senate President Karen Spilka's office declined to comment on DeZoglio's latest remarks. GBH News reached out to Speaker Ron Mariano's office but did not hear back. State Attorney General Andrea Campbell has so far refused to represent the auditor in court to enforce the law, saying the scope of the audit isn't clear. DeZoglio said her office has been crystal clear and that they are still seeking access to financial, state contracting, and procurement documents. In July, DeZoglio sidestepped the Attorney General and hired the private law firm Donnelly, Conroy, and Gelhar to enforce the law in court. But a spokesperson from the Attorney General's office suggested to GBH News that that suit will be immediately dismissed under state law. Liaison doppelganger, thank you. Not allowed! Bring cops or hired guns to do it by force. The law is literally on your side. Except all of the police officers in Boston are also corrupt, so you can't really do that. Boston's pretty fucked at this current moment. Massachusetts state law is clear that any lawful litigation brought by state officials or state entities must be authorized by the Attorney General's office. Spokesperson Sydney Heiberger wrote in a statement, "It is a dictatorial style of government. It is not democratic. It is, in fact, anti-democratic," DeZoglio said. "We're just trying to get before a court right now, and we can't even get our constitutional right to get an impartial hearing recognized by the top law enforcement agency of this Commonwealth." DeZoglio said the legislature has refused to ask the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court for an opinion on whether a legislative audit by her office would violate the separation of powers. The number one goal of everybody involved in this on Beacon Hill is to keep us out of the courtroom so that we can't get a decision, so that this will linger on forever. It was literally voted on. This was something 72% of the people voted on and wanted to have happen. This is also a Democratic lady on the side of the Democrats, just wanting to see where the money's going. This is like the most gentle audit you could ever possibly get. And then I had one more article from November 5th, 2025. Let's just see if there's any other information here. At the crux of the deadlock is Democratic lawmakers' refusal to participate in an audit. They argue it violates the separation of powers principles. DeZoglio wants to sue them into compliance, but Attorney General Andrea Campbell's office has yet to take action and says it needs more information from the auditor. I feel like that's really weird that a law could be voted on and passed, and then all of the legislators are like, yeah, but we're not going to do anything about that. I mean, I'm not surprised, considering there have been laws on the books for decades that they were like, yeah, we're just not going to enforce those. And actually, if you try enforcing them, we're going to call you a fascist Nazi and think it's okay to kill you. And it's not surprising, but it's still just like, God damn, I would hate to live in Mass. Impasse has frustrated advocates who campaigned in favor of the ballot question last November. They say DeZoglio, a former state lawmaker, was given a mandate to probe the inner workings of Beacon Hill because the measure passed with nearly 72% of the vote. Everywhere you go, you talk to people about this, and it's not a partisan ideological issue. It's a matter of respect, and it's on people's minds, he said in an interview. Michael Luang Tat, head lawyer for the state auditor's office, in a statement said the Attorney General's office willful abdication and continued failure to faithfully discharge its statutory duty to enforce the law have left our office with no other recourse but to engage outside counsel. This legal dispute is ripe for litigation, and litigation is the only means of resolution given the legislature's refusal to comply. That's a pretty interesting statement. The auditor's privately funded legal arrangement also raises significant legal and ethical questions, Campbell said. While the path forward is clear, the author's unwillingness to provide answers has brought her dispute with the legislature no closer to resolution. I wonder when we're actually going to get some kind of resolution on this. It seems like they're going to do everything they possibly can to stall it for fucking ever. So someone here said, PSA for Serybot users, please be aware that if you have Serybot added to your channel, the developer can and does access the bot for personal use, as they did in my stream last night without identifying themselves, chat logs, and contact. I don't use it anymore, but I used to use Serybot back when like hate raids were a big thing on Twitch. So like someone would get a bunch of bots, like hundreds of bots, and they would raid into your channel and start spamming slurs. So it would just be like a wall of like N-words and whatnot covering your Twitch chat in the hopes of getting you banned. And so I had Serybot when that was like a big thing on Twitch. And this is very weird to me. So Serybot in her chat started saying like, hello, I would like to speak to the manager here. I guess this particular VTuber has like a manager design or something. I don't know who they are. He continued, are you the manager here? Hello, manager. It looks like he's adding people in the chat as well. At someone, one of your employees sold me an extended warranty on my car and I want to return it. I don't have a car. hi streamer, at someone, yes, I'll take an upgrade for free, at someone, sad face, at someone, who said anything about AI, at someone, Teddy Ursa emote, at someone, you drive a hard bargain, go that way. And then when asked why Serybot is talking, because again, this is supposed to be a bot that handles like banning certain things from your channel, right? It's not like, there's not supposed to be a person here. It's a completely automated bot system that removes certain things from your chat as an extra moderation tool when Twitch wasn't doing enough about hate raids. And so they asked why Serybot was talking, and he said, at someone just hanging out. Why not? And then one of their mods banned them. And she says, I was conflicted on posting this because I love Serybot and I'm grateful to the dev for their work. But I feel that other streamers should know that this can happen so they don't feel the absolute panic that I did in the middle of my live stream, trying to look up whether the bot had been compromised or whether this had happened before. I understand it is meant to be a lighthearted joke and some people may think I'm overreacting. I don't think she's overreacting. But in my opinion, this is a security issue not a lot of streamers are aware of. To access a bot that is authorized and given moderator permissions in thousands of streams, just to basically prank people is inappropriate, not to mention unprofessional. 1,000% agree. If you are making a bot that thousands of people are adding as a moderator in their Twitch channels for extra protections that they weren't previously able to get in current year, I don't think Serybot really does anything that you can't do with the current Twitch moderation tools. But previously, Serybot was incredibly fucking helpful when hate raids were a big problem. We had no idea what was going on while the bot was chatting for almost 10 minutes with no clarification, despite our clear confusion. And I personally was so thrown off at the prospect that Serybot had somehow been hacked while having auth and mod perms on my channel that I ended up banning it. Correct move. I would have done the same fucking thing. That's not really a joke. It's fucked up to do. It's incredibly fucked up to do. I would lose complete fucking trust in anyone that like usurped their bot to start talking in my chat. That's fucking weird. That's like the janitor at the school who's doing a good job and then one day he decides to just start drilling holes in the women's toilets to watch them pee. Like it's really fucking weird. And it's like we didn't consent to that. We wanted your bot here for helping, man. If you want to talk to us, come on your normal account. Be like Seri_dev man, right? And then be like, hey, I'm the developer of Seri. How are you liking my bot? Like engage like a normal human, you know? Yeah, look what I can do kind of thing. Exactly. I would ask the dev to please be more careful about these kinds of things in the future and to consider how it might come across to its users who are just trying to have some peace of mind while live. Thank you. And in response to this, Serybot guy responded and he said, I apologized last night, but I'll say it publicly. I apologize for making you uncomfortable. Definitely was not my intention. I occasionally come say hi with the bot. Don't fucking do that, you weirdo. And this one missed the mark. I'll be more mindful about this in the future. And this is a showing of, I guess he DM'd the lady that he went and got weird in her chat. And his DM to her says, hello, I wanted to apologize for the scare on your stream. The bot was not hacked, and I can assure you it was me. I occasionally pop through recommended streamers using the bot and say hi. Don't fucking do that. That's weird. Your feelings are valid though, and I understand that made you uncomfortable. Had I known that there was any issue going on, I would have said something. The manager thing was intended to be a silly conversation, and it just came to me because of the manager name tag on your VTuber. Though I can easily see that I could give off the impression that the bot was hacked. I'll definitely be more mindful, going forward. And again, I'm sorry for the trouble. Have a good night. And like, this is really weird. This is really weird. And I definitely don't think that he should be chatting to streamers through his bot. His bot has a function and people agreed to use it for that function. If you want to talk to people, put a different account, right? Don't use the bot. Just be normal. Ha, this guy locked replies. What a fucking candy ass. But it turns out he didn't lock replies when I clicked on it. Let me go to my main browser here. He didn't lock replies. He's actually just blocked me. So that's really funny that someone who would block me turns out to be a weirdo fucking creep that uses their bot to talk to female streamers. The pattern, it continues. But apparently Tinder is paying $230 on average to eligible California users who are over 28 to 29 and paid higher prices for premium subscriptions from 2015 to 2019 due to age-based pricing. Every time I see any kind of like pricing based on some sort of characteristic, I would like to remind people that one of Bridge's tenets is to introduce the race-based pricing kind of thing. Bridge wants equity of pricing. And even if there's a lawsuit for this age-based thing here, remember how long affirmative action was just normal. That was just how things were. Nobody fought against affirmative action until the last couple of years. People might have been against it, but no one with any kind of power was actually fighting to get rid of it until the last couple of years. And so even if Tinder is having to pay out for age-based pricing right now due to it being illegal, I would not count this as they're going to stop doing this entirely. If I check stream suggestions, Pirate Nation also posted how PlayStation is experimenting with surveillance pricing, calling it dynamic pricing. I said that this was going to happen a year ago. I was like, this is going to happen. Places are going to put price gouging into place under the, like, oh, we're just testing, you know, peak prime hour pricing, right? We're gonna charge you more for your food at certain times and less for your food at certain times. I was like, they're gonna start with that, and they're gonna start sliding into the equity of pricing and equity of product availability. That's just what's going to happen. I've been talking about this for more than a year, man. Tinder's fucking terrible. Imagine paying $500 a month for fucking Tinder. What the hell? I was like, what are you even doing, my guy, at that point? Son of a bitch, the Foxu was sadly right again. I'm so sick of being right. It's not even anything I can be happy about. It's bad that I'm right. But that was just a quick, hey, Tinder also did the fucky wucky. Imagine that. Imagine that. President Trump's FCC has announced sweeping proposals to end Americans' problems with foreign call centers, including onshoring jobs to the US, requiring operators to speak standard English, and imposing tariffs on countries running scam centers. I don't even know how to describe using the English language how happy I would be if I had to call customer service and I was greeted with like an actual American or British accent instead of the indecipherable accents that currently attempt to help you by doing absolutely nothing. Like, I remember even when I was a kid and my dad would get on the phone with customer service. My dad is a very soft-spoken and kind man. But when he would get on the phone with customer service, I would immediately hear, "Can you speak fucking English?" Like, my dad would get so fucking mad at having to talk to someone that couldn't speak English when he needed support for something. And so hearing my dad switch from like, yeah, you know, that's, you know, it is how it is, to like getting actually angry on a support call. You know, I would just love to see this happen, okay? I'm kind of tired, right? Like, they try to hide it sometimes, where they're just like, I can't do a foreign accent. So it's just like, hello, I am George. And it's like, no, you're not. You're not fucking George. Shut the fuck up. Pretending your name is something like anglicized does not make any kind of a difference. No one believes you. No one believes you. Can we pay them in food pellets? Well, that's apparently what happens. They just throw food pellets at them like they're fucking hamsters. I don't even know, man. What is this? Fair and base. This is John from Microsoft. SAR? No, it's not. Hey, speak fucking English, man. So we don't deal with customers asking stupid questions. And yet they're so dumb they keep getting through. Working on the customer service side for shipping is infuriating. A little bit. Call it a filthy clanker. Imagine I'm in the middle of calling it a filthy fucking clanker and then a person actually picks up. That'd be very embarrassing, bro. Libertarian students from UNH were elected to the New Hampshire legislature and introduced a bill to permit campus carry. They argue that their Second Amendment right to self-protection may not be abridged by the state at its government school. Leftist UNH students have threatened to leave UNH if campus carry is approved. I don't see the downside. I feel like this is like two good things. Two birds, one stone. You get campus carry and the leftist freaks leave. This seems like a win-win scenario, honestly. I'm like, why should New Hampshire taxpayers be forced to fund socialist students to the tune of $19,000 for their women's and gender studies degree with a minor in queer studies? Move to Massachusetts. It's where you'll be more comfortable anyway. Bye-bye. Yes. Yes, and true. UNH reacts to the campus carry bill. The bill would eliminate bans and regulations on carrying a firearm or non-lethal weapon on public college campuses across New Hampshire. On February 5th, the state representative and UNH senior Samuel Farrington, campus carry bill House Bill 1793 passed through the New Hampshire House with a 188 to 165 vote. If passed through the Senate and signed into law, it would prohibit public colleges and universities across New Hampshire from banning or regulating the possession and carrying of firearms and non-lethal weapons on campus. This bill would go into effect on January 1st, 2027. Public institutions such as UNH, Keene State College, and Plymouth State University currently have gun-free policies. Farrington's bill would prevent the enforcement of these policies, and individuals could also sue these institutions for over $10,000 for restricting the carrying of weapons on a public campus. Fucking based, actually. And I think this would also be a very good look into if tragedies were to start occurring at these colleges. Would it be because of the policies, or would these policies prevent the tragedy from being larger than it would have been if the person committing it wouldn't have been stopped by someone on campus who had a gun? Be very interesting data point. Because I'm on the side of, yeah, these should not be gun-free zones, because gun-free zones create sitting ducks as soft targets. Farrington says that right now there is no law that prevents students from walking around campus carrying a firearm. The school just uses their policy to really threaten kids that dare to do it. And they would use disciplinary action, but they can't charge them for any crime. Elliot Boutin, a fourth-year student and state chair of New Hampshire's Young Americans for Liberty, noted that under New Hampshire law and the Second Amendment, every individual's right to self-defense is protected and does not disappear when you walk onto campus. Personal safety and constitutional rights go hand in hand. They're not competing ideas, said Boutin. Which is also another interesting point, because once again, people that want to comply with any kind of laws, in this case it's not a law, but it's like a campus kind of doctrine thing, people who want to be law-abiding will follow the rules. People who do not care about the law or the rules will carry a gun anyways, and typically those people are going to be the ones committing horrific acts, right? Like Rich said in the chat, he did it anyways as a form of protection because it's like they can't really do anything to you. But for the most part, people who are going to flagrantly flout the rules in this manner are doing something nefarious, typically, on the campuses. Representative Heath Howard, D. New Hampshire, worries that allowing the carrying of firearms on public universities across the state would stop raising questions as to what an individual is doing with a firearm, which could be detrimental in a nation with the highest rate of mass shootings in the developed world. I don't think New Hampshire would have that problem, actually. I have a feeling New Hampshire wouldn't really have that problem, first. Second, if people are carrying guns, or rather, if the gun-free zone sign is gone, so you don't know who might be carrying a gun, that's going to make a criminal think twice before going there. Because they're not soft targets anymore. He might die before doing anything. Which would be good for us. The criminal should die, right? Like, less rape will happen. I don't think I have the tweet, but like somebody was trying to make the argument that if people allow campus carry, then more rape will happen. And I was like, how in the fuck do you figure that more rape will happen if women have a way to defend themselves? Like, what in the fuck are we doing here? Howard said it makes it a lot harder for law enforcement to discern who is the victim, who is the perpetrator, and it makes it harder for them to respond in a timely manner. How would it make it harder to discern who is the victim and who is the perpetrator when all of these colleges have like crazy amounts of cameras? Like, it would be very obvious to see who started attempting a mass shooting. What are we talking about? In the instance of an active shooter situation on campus, a UNH professor predicts that a shooter could easily get off 180 to 200 rounds in 3 minutes. When was the last time we saw that amount of bullets happen on a campus? Like, off the top of my head, I can think of the Vegas shooting, but that wasn't a campus. It's the exact same BS excuse when the commies created these gun-free zones in the late 70s. It's all so tiresome, man. Rookie numbers, 1,200 bullets per minute is where it's at. True. You need to stack attack speed on your firearm. He said the UNH Police Department's response time is around 90 seconds, which he sees as optimistic. Yeah, the police are minutes away when seconds count. So this is actually an argument for allowing campus carry. I don't think he understands that. Also, when people see how the police officers reacted to the Uvalde shooting, I don't think anyone is going to trust that police will actually do anything, even if they get there in 90 seconds. He believes that if there is someone armed, trained, and capable in the room, a significant number of lives could be saved. Whoever the UNH professor is, he is correct. Denying trained people the right to exercise their constitutional rights to address threats like this is just as irresponsible as the opposing argument, said an anonymous UNH professor. I understand why he's staying anonymous. Stopping mass shootings is transphobic. Oh my god. Many students across campus feel passionately about this issue. Both supporters and opponents of the bill have created online petitions that received hundreds of signatures. UNH graduate student Bella Folt-Smith said, "My first thoughts when I learned about this bill were disbelief and denial. I couldn't possibly fathom New Hampshire taking this seriously. Bringing in more guns has never curbed gun violence." Does this retard realize where she's living? Has she never left the campus grounds? I don't even know what to say in response to that. UNH senior English lecturer Lawrence Beamer supports that's a fun name, supports the Second Amendment, but also expressed distaste for the bill and believes that if passed, it would have an immediate negative impact on the students and staff at UNH. A firearm is a tool that has no appropriate use in an educational environment, and I, for one, will find it difficult, if not impossible, to carry out my job with guns in my class, said Beamer. You know what's really funny? This guy who said that he supports the Second Amendment, but then says this ridiculous shit here, actually gave his name. The guy who was in full support of allowing campus carry is anonymous. I think that's a very interesting thing to point out, actually. And then he doesn't support the 2A. He does not. He does not. This is weasel wording. This is, I support the Second Amendment, except in all these ways in which I don't. Anonymous suspicion. I don't think it's suspicious that he's anonymous. I think if he wasn't anonymous, he would get a lot of backlash, is my point, because he's a campus guy. Weasel worded moon runes. It's just like, a firearm is a tool that has a job in that environment in which if someone were to try and attack people there, the ones who are armed could potentially stop it. Is it 100% guaranteed? No, it's not. But if you are carrying, you're like, I am going to take on this responsibility that if something happens, I want to try and stop it. That's a self-defense weapon. Rep. Farrington stated that from his research, he found that 92% of all mass shooting incidents occur in these so-called gun-free zones. Yep. So all these policies do is prevent the good guy from putting up a fight against the bad guy. And so it leaves victims as defenseless and hopeless, said Farrington. He also believes that if an individual wants to commit evil and is aware that people in a certain area could be armed, they will be deterred by that fact. Hey, it's the exact same thing I said. Representative Wayne Burton, Democrat, New Hampshire, spoke against HB 1793 in his floor speech on February 5th and said, "Our new 600-student middle school sits right behind Fraternity Row on Madbury Road. Many kids walk by them and through the campus, coming and going to school. I live a quarter mile from T Hall in earshot of social events on the weekends. I don't want to hear gunshots." Does he think that a bunch of fraternity people... I don't know where Madbury Road is, but does he think they're just gonna be shooting off guns into the sky? Like, what? Why would you just randomly start hearing gunshots? That doesn't make any sense. There's a few restrictions that you do think should be put on carrying, like while publicly intoxicated. I feel like that's kind of a no-brainer. All right, like, if I'm getting high, I'm not going to interact with my firearms. I don't think being high has the same, like, effect as being drunk, but I'm still impaired, and I shouldn't do that. The frat house just shooting pledges with 38 rat shot on the weekends for fun. The drinking plink is God intends. I mean, if you live on your own property, I'm a retard. If you live on a property in the middle of nowhere, yeah, sure, maybe, you know, that's up to you if you accidentally harm yourself. But I feel like if you're publicly intoxicated, which is already kind of a crime, probably shouldn't be carrying. Just to be safe, you know? Accidents can and do happen. The same as a vehicle or motor power tool. See, a lot of these things that I'm talking about, though, like, if you're drunk, you probably shouldn't be carrying. If you're high, you probably shouldn't be carrying. These are things that, like, I don't think should need to be legislated. I don't think they should need to be laws. in a functioning, idealistic society, people would just understand this, right? People would just be like, oh, that makes sense. All common sense things, yeah, you would think so. It's like, I talk about moderation all the time as well, like moderation in the things that you do and the things that you consume in order to not, like, acquire addictions or, you know, go too far with something. But it seems like a lot of people have a lot of difficulty practicing moderation in anything. Representative Howard described how the fatal shooting of Charlie Kirk at Utah State University in September became such a dangerous situation because Utah is a campus carry state. From discussions with UNH students about this issue, Howard has found that a vast majority of them are very opposed to this legislation. What does he mean? I don't think people campus carrying would have prevented anything with the Charlie Kirk situation. This was a mentally ill individual who climbed up on a building. I don't even know if the building itself was on the campus, but he didn't even open carry the firearm. He climbed up on a building and, like, sniped from far away. Campus carry is what made that scene dangerous? Yeah, absolutely not. I understand that you might not like guns or might have a sense of uneasiness towards guns, and that's okay, said Farrington. But when somebody chooses to bear arms, that's a personal decision. And the overwhelming majority of people who choose to carry day to day are responsible individuals. And what it comes down to is that this is a constitutionally protected right. Beamer said, I don't think this even really qualifies as a Second Amendment issue. It's just needling against common sense. It's legal to own a llama, but it would be disruptive to bring one into class. One shouldn't need a law to understand that. Why would it be disruptive to bring one to class? Like, you don't even have to think about it. And even if you do think about it, there's much less chance that that guy taking the math test at the same time as you with his carry arm is going to do something bad. If anything, he would be the person that you would want to be near if something bad started happening. How is a llama comparable to a gun? He's trying to point out the disruption aspect to it, but I don't agree with him there. And I think that a lot of these people who make these ridiculous cases to ban firearms from places, it makes me think back to that one anti-gun activist who went through like a police training course where he found out just how quickly you have to make these in-the-moment snap decisions to figure out, is this person gonna shoot me or not? And that changed his entire view about firearms and about, like, how police have to react to things. And I think maybe more of those kinds of training courses could and should be offered to people to show them exactly, like, how to handle a gun more so than just a safety course at a range. I think that would be a very interesting kind of, like, course to give to people. And not even necessarily just like a police training course, but like, okay, there's an active shooter situation. Let's have you, you know, go through the school with your firearm as you're a legal carrying person and see what you do, right? Mr. Anti-Cannon, thank you. In before fully automatic assault llama with sticky spit, I'm gonna ride my assault llama with his side saddle machine guns into battle. Regardless of individuals' viewpoints on this issue and this bill, Farrington said that the safety is definitely a concern on campus right now, and people just want solutions. Trying to like get people to understand this bill, I think my idea of like, let's have a, I don't want to say like real time, right? Because I don't want real people in there, right? In a police training course, they're like cardboard cutouts that like pop up and shit. But I think doing something like that would really help people understand how these real life scenarios would be more than likely to go, rather than just listening to two people hitting themselves against a brick wall because no one's going to change their mind, right? Having like something physical to actually do and go through would be a very good idea. And I think if we had the VR technology to do it, which maybe we do, I don't play around in VR too much. If we had the VR technology to do it, that would probably even reduce the cost of having people go through this kind of training thing. Lesson number 1 of women's self-defense: you're grossly outmatched by most men. Your best bet is to run away and escape somehow. Only fight if you have no other option. I don't even think you'd be able to run away very efficiently because the man would be able to catch you. Like if you have that prickly feeling, and you have that, like, preemptive ability to run away and maybe get to, like, a house before something happens, sure. But you also have to hope that if you bang on a door, someone's gonna answer it. And, I don't know how to tell you this, but most people aren't gonna answer their door if someone is frantically banging on it in the middle of the night anymore. That's how, we don't live in that world currently. You're practicing chasing women at night for sport? You can confirm this is true. Oh god, I love that joke. It's so weird. Somebody help me! And lastly, on this article, Since the campus carry bill has now passed through the House and was referred to the New Hampshire Senate on February 9th, politicians and advocates predict the hearing will occur in the coming weeks. If the bill makes it through the Senate, it will arrive at the desk of Governor Kelly Ayotte, who will then decide whether to sign HB 1793 into New Hampshire law. But Geraldine Duque recently learned to ski for the first time. Originally from Manizales, Colombia, she never had ventured into skiing before. She said she enjoyed the opportunity to experience an environment that's different from what she grew up with. The lesson was part of SoulSlide, a program that provides an opportunity for people from Latino and Black communities to learn winter sports in a welcoming atmosphere and at a more affordable price. That's kind of weird to offer racial pricing for skiing lessons. DEI Sports Olympics paradox. Yeah, the first comment, who is paying for this program? That's a great fucking question. Can't believe my money was taken from me and used to pay for ski lessons. High prices designed to keep people out. Who would steal our unsecured equipment off the rack? Program connects Latino and Black communities with New Hampshire's winter sports. In any part of the world, there are people looking for ways to connect with nature and have fun because that's what it's there for. She said in Spanish. This bitch ain't even speaking in English. What are we doing? Duque participated in the final session of the season for SoulSlide, a program created by Ruth Castillo of Latino Outdoors and Marty Fuller of Outdoor Afro. Now in its second year, organizers say these programs provide an opportunity for people from Latino and Black communities to learn winter sports in a welcoming atmosphere and at a more affordable price. It's just so important to have something to do in the winter that brings me joy and gets me through the short days and the cold, Fuller said. It really is meaningful for us to bring people out to have fun and have some joy in their lives in these dark times. But why did they need a lower price because of their skin color? They could have just done this normally. There are people who up and decide, hey, I'd love to go skiing or snowboarding or tubing literally all the time. When I was in the mountains, I didn't go do it because I didn't have like fucking proper snow clothing. But they even had like Aurora tubing where they put on like RGB gamer lights all over the snow and you can tube down it. I was like, that's really fucking cool. And it was like what? I can't remember if it was like a $50 ticket or like a $35 ticket. But it wasn't crazy for doing something like that. It's a 501c3 org nonprofit. Interesting. Where are they getting the money from? Who's funding this? Must understand that non-whites are like woodland, or we non-whites, okay, you as a non-white, are like woodland creatures. Dumb, lacking resources, and need outside forces to survive. This man's reading the Democrat playbook. I really hate that, man. Like, seeing the way that Democrats talk about minorities is like, oh, these poor woodland critters, we must help them. About 90% of the people who participated in downhill winter sports last season were white, according to data from the National Ski Areas Association. By comparison, 5% participants were Latino and 1% were Black. Meh. This is just like the we need more women in X. How about maybe women aren't like really that interested in it? Like, I don't know what you mean. Castillo said that part of this imbalance stems from high costs, no childhood lessons, and physical distance from ski sports. She said the work of volunteers and sponsors like Arc'teryx and Cranmore is essential for continuing the program and providing full scholarships? They're getting full free lessons? Bro, I didn't have childhood lessons. Where are my free ski and tubing lessons, bro? I grew up literally next to a ski loft, and I did not give a fuck. I was like, I'm not interested in skiing. We really wanted to create an opportunity for people to come out that was low cost, Castillo said. The gear is expensive, lift tickets are expensive, and the cost is just really high, on top of just our communities being historically excluded from sports like this. Are they? Are they historically excluded? Are there a bunch of white people up in North Conway saying, you're too dark, you can't ski? Is that something that's happening? And also, you can rent gear. You can do that. Like when I would go skating with friends who didn't have blades or skates of their own, they would rent them. Democrats unironically treat minorities the way honorable chatters ironically treat you as a retarded cartoon woman. The expense is a natural filter. Oh my god. If they're in New Hampshire, they're ironically skiing in the whites. I just, again, don't see the issue. Why do we need some sort of program to make the price less for people of certain skin colors? That seems kind of discriminatory. There's nothing preventing people of any skin color from just going up to the mountain and doing it. Oh my god. The contrast between you and the snow is too jarring for us white folk. Someone's there with like a fucking skin color card and they're like, if you can't naturally camouflage with the snow, you can't ski. You weren't joking about market saturation. They're actually trying to start a culture of snow sports. I mean, I think anyone who wants to do any kind of snow sports should be able to do it. I don't think there's any barriers of entry besides the cost. And that's there for anyone of any skin color. So this doesn't make sense to me. Participant Devin Cunningham of Dover said that he had a great time even if he took a few tumbles. It feels great coming down until you move a little too fast and you can't stop, he said, laughing. Am I going to go again? Of course. Am I afraid? Maybe. But I definitely want to keep on going, though. It just feels really silly to read this and then think that they're talking about this experience as something that white people were gatekeeping. Like, what the fuck? Throughout the year, Latino Outdoors and Outdoor Afro host various other programs, including hiking, bouldering, and film screenings. Who's funding this? How are they getting the lower prices? That's my one concern. I don't really care if there are like people privately funding things like this, but if there's any sort of tax dollars or any sort of public funding going toward it, that shouldn't be happening. Ski industry is looking at it as none of their friends ski either, so if we get them started, they'll get others. It's all a marketing strat to keep growing. I think you can market that without needing to like give racial discounts. The fact that I have to talk about racial discounts is kind of silly in the first place. And before a black person goes out like Sonny Bono and calls trees racist. I read an article on stream years ago that said that the outdoors was inherently racist. The racial reparation discounts. Yeah, I think I need that actually. With 43 felony counts against him, an activist judge still released Daniel Fossler on a $5,000 bond after he was caught in the act of raping Aaron Spencer's 14-year-old daughter. Aaron tracked down and shot Fossler after the judge's unconscionable slap on the wrist. In this guy's opinion, Fossler got off too easy because death was too good for him. Also, this guy believes judges who let perps like Fossler off so easily should be held responsible for any and everything that happens after the perp is released. Hard fucking agree. These judges are releasing way too many fucking criminals. There need to be repercussions. Judges are all too often not held responsible for their political feelings and their rulings, and this has got to stop. Now, Aaron Spencer, a U.S. Army veteran and Lanoke County farmer, is charged with second-degree murder. So, he launched his sheriff candidacy to reform what he calls a broken system allowing low bonds for child predators. I honestly do not know what I would do or how I would react if someone was caught doing this to one of my grandkids. What Fossler was caught doing to Aaron's minor daughter. That being said, I hope he wins his election and I hope he helps to make changes. And there's screenshots here that says he's a candidate for sheriff and accused of murder. I did what any good father would do, Aaron Spencer says. Army veteran runs for sheriff while awaiting murder trial over daughter's rescue. I retweeted a video of him talking. An Arkansas father who killed his 14-year-old daughter's rapist, Aaron Spencer, has won the Republican primary for sheriff in Lanoke County, the same department that arrested him, saying the legal system failed his family and that he will restore trust in the country. Literally murdered his daughter's rapist, ran for sheriff, and won the primary. Actually fucking crazy. You can just do things.
Hello, Lone Oak. My name is Aaron Spencer. Many of you know my story. I'm the father who acted to protect his daughter when the system failed. I'm also a husband, a combat veteran of the 82nd Airborne Division, a contractor, and a farmer. And through my own fight for justice, I have seen firsthand the failures in law enforcement and in our circuit court. And I refuse to stand by while others face these same failures. That's why I'm announcing my candidacy to run for Lonoke County Sheriff. This campaign isn't about me. It's about every parent, every neighbor, every family who deserves to feel safe in their homes and safe in their community. It's about restoring trust, where neighbors know law enforcement is on their side, and families know that they will not be left alone in a moment of need. Together, we can build a safer, stronger Lonoke County for every family. I'm Aaron Spencer, and I'm running for Sheriff of Lonoke County.
That's fucking crazy. And I love to see it. And I think we need more people in law enforcement with this kind of attitude. Based father with cute little turkeys in the background. Look at them. I want to squinch the turkeys. I love them. Now he'll never harm another child again. Almost as if extreme accountability has a 100% success rate at preventing recidivism. True. True and real. Arkansas man accused of killing daughter's alleged abuser wins Republican sheriff's nomination. Aaron Spencer would not be able to serve if he's convicted and maintains he acted within the law to protect his child. He did the right thing. He did the right thing. An Arkansas man accused of killing his teenage daughter's alleged abuser recently won the Republican nomination for local sheriff while waiting to stand trial for murder in his rural county, where he ran on a message of seeing the failures of law enforcement. I always prompt everyone here to get involved in their local politics. Local is where everything ripples out from. If you can get elected somewhere in your local area, or if you can help someone that shares your principles get elected, that is going to do so much for rippling up to the national stage. And especially if you can get someone like Brandon Herrera on a national seat, right? That's insane. So having more people like this guy run and usurp people who are super soft on crime, very amazing thing to see done. Aaron Spencer defeated Lonoke County Sheriff John Staley in a primary election Tuesday, according to an unofficial results posted by the Arkansas Secretary of State. He would not be able to serve if he is convicted of killing Michael Fossler, 67, who at the time was out on bond after being charged with numerous sexual offenses against Spencer's then 13-year-old daughter. What jury would convict this man? If you found me a jury that would unanimously convict this guy of anything after killing his daughter's rapist, I would say that is a corrupt fucking jury. There is something wrong with the people on this jury, and the thing that's wrong with those people is the cancer killing our country slowly in general. Spencer's attorneys do not deny that he shot and killed Fossler, but maintain he acted within the law to protect his child from a predator. Spencer won more than 53% of the vote, with all precincts reporting, according to the unofficial results. Staley, whose department arrested Spencer in 2024, conceded the loss. Congratulations to Mr. Spencer, Staley said in a statement posted on Facebook. Tonight, the voters made their decision in the Republican primary, and I respect the decision. Can you imagine how much egg you have on your face to arrest someone that killed his daughter's rapist, and you arrested him, and then you got voted out of office by the guy that you arrested winning? Like that... I was just like, damn, you a cuck, brother. Spencer said in a statement that his message of accountability resonated with voters. Tonight, the people of Lonoke County stood up and chose transparency and accountability, Spencer said. This wasn't a campaign about me, it was about every family who called for help and got nothing. That betrayal ends tonight. He is now set to face Democrat Brian Mitchell Sr. in the heavily Republican county in November. Spencer has pleaded not guilty and is out on bond while awaiting trial, which was originally scheduled to start in January. The trial was delayed after the presiding judge was removed from the case and a new date has not yet been set. I feel like the Democrat is probably going to run on the how can you trust someone that murdered someone in pursuit of vigilante justice as your sheriff? But considering how bad law enforcement has been, and considering how there's been no justice and criminals are repeatedly just let back out to terrorize more people, I don't think his line of logic is going to actually convince many people, especially if it's a heavy Republican-leaning area. Court documents show that on the night of October 2024 shooting, Spencer woke up to find his daughter missing from her bedroom, went searching for her in his truck. He found the girl in the passenger seat of a vehicle Fossler was driving. Spencer eventually forced Fossler's truck off the highway and after an altercation, called 911 to report that he had shot the man, records show. Prosecutors argue Spencer had planned to kill Foster even before that night, and that he could have called police while pursuing Fossler. The same police that have let Fossler go multiple times, why would he do that? He knows they're not going to do anything. Spencer's attorney, Aaron Casanelli, wrote in an email to the Associated Press that the election results have no bearing on the facts of the case. Well, I would disagree. He protected his daughter and himself from harm, Casanelli said. At some point, those responsible for this prosecution will have to reckon with that. Spencer pledged in a Facebook post in February that if elected, he would establish a dedicated team to combat sex crimes against children, and I hope he lives up to his fucking word. He's taken action once, so I have faith that he would do it again.